Last time there was nothing new in Nueces County. Now today, in Nueces County, 81 new cases with 2 new deaths. State of Texas, over 4,800 total cases with 15 new deaths. 9.3 positive, almost at 10%. Over almost 2,000 people in ICU. 62.5, 74.4, 21.3, and 17.8. We're halfway close to the 100% mark for the first dose. And keep in mind, not everyone is willing to get it because it's against their religion. But our schools, well, one junior high student has an active case. Others, junior high and junior high student and elementary staff, one active case each. Seems good. What's not good was 2 years ago when the pandemic hit, everyone just suddenly quit their jobs. If you've been looking at signs, you've been seeing the help wanted sign, help needed or wanted sign. And during that time, everyone quit their jobs simply because of the pandemic. So what's being done about this? Here's Bill Churchwell.
Good afternoon, Express Employment Professionals. This is Billy.
At Express Employment, business is back.
All these individuals, they represent somebody who's actually been able to get hired on fully with that company.
Richard Lopez says the company acts as a middleman connecting employers with folks looking for jobs. In fact, they're good at it.
And this is just what fits around here.
But coming out of the pandemic, they have their work cut out for them.
We saw incredible lows in terms of jobs available and job seekers. Now that we've come out of it, we've seen an abundance of jobs.
The number of jobs outpacing the amount of workers returning, with some openings tougher to fill than others.
Anywhere from office services to housekeepers to skilled labor to service technicians. We have the need for work and we have that availability.
For different reasons, the pandemic has hurt Corpus Christi a lot more severely than other cities.
Dr. Jim Lee, an economics professor at Texas A&M Corpus Christi, says this is a weird and especially tricky time for jobs in the construction and service industry.
Most of them, they are looking for other jobs, which is actually tied to inflation.
And so what we are seeing is more people leaving their jobs in hopes of better pay, or as we saw in our previous Help Needed report, going back to college. But there are other reasons for the shortage.
The Gen Z generation is coming back to work. But then the only obviously generation is the baby boomers.
Check this out, more than 3 million Americans retired early due to the pandemic. The stock market surge and a housing market boom, both providing some folks with the opportunity to retire earlier than expected.
We have recovered all jobs except 3%. I suspect we will never gain back all those jobs.
As companies compete against each other to reel in new employees, job seekers are now in a position to be more choosy, and that's rarely been the case.
Close to 2 job openings per person looking for work. This is amazing.
I've seen some familiar faces I haven't seen in a couple of years here.
Lopez says he remains hopeful and takes pride in knowing they are playing a role in getting the workforce back on track.
I have these openings where we could get some more people in the doors, but it's been a very positive effect. You know, just seeing these people come to work, it's rewarding.
Bill Churchwell, 3 News.
Oh, thank you so.
And it's a growing problem ever. Now, if you want to see Bill's report on Help Needed list, we'll have that in the description below. And if you're looking for some jobs, we'll also put the link in the description below, as well as our Give Me a Break website at givemeabreak.substack.com. You'll also find new job openings to where you're at, whether it's in Texas, whether it's in Minnesota, whether it's Idaho, California, wherever you're at. We have to get back on track with this because everybody's losing their jobs. The stock market's up. Baby formula shortage. Baby formula is rising. With the baby formula crisis is rising. And Biden launches a plan to fly baby formula to the U.S., which was all causes of the pandemic. And the FDA, and speaking of that, yesterday, the FDA authorizes Pfizer COVID booster for ages 5 to 11. Sorry. Plus, hundreds of thousands of kids lost loved ones during the pandemic. It's because of the pandemic. But we're not going to have time to watch this. We'll watch those in our next Gimme Rec segment. In the meantime, which will be it's only a 6-minute segment. So in the meantime, what you need to do is this: social distance, hand wash, wearing a face mask. If you're traveling, you need to make sure you check the local cases. And take extra precautions when you're traveling. If you have a medical condition, let you know beforehand. If your child's under 2, no masks. If you haven't gotten vaccinated, vaccinate. If you're in transportation, same thing. If you're in the auxiliary zone, then take extra precautions, like we talked about. We have to be safe. 2 years from now, another 2 years, it's going to be like hell. COVID's hell, and the subvariants are the devils. Well, coming up next, the drought, the biggest one ever. There's a drought happening in Corpus Christi, and it's probably on our water supply. Then we're going to talk about Burn Pits 360. How it continues to protect our nation's heroes. We're also going to talk about Troy Aikman promoting his new beer here in Corpus. And then Leslie Adamy on Corpus Christi Animal Care Services to shelter 30 animals after 4 people were arrested for animal cruelty. All that's coming up. Up front tonight, drought water. Now, Corpus Christi is probably the one from with the drought because of the Colorado water being transferred to the Corpus Christi lakes. But what does that mean for all us Corpus people who drink the water? Take a look.
New at 10, we've talked a lot about our area being affected by this heat, but the drought conditions, well, they're having an impact on our water supply tonight.
The city of Corpus Christi has been informed that the Lower Colorado River Authority intends to curtail or suspend the city's contractual access to water from the Colorado River due to the ongoing drought. Currently, the city receives 20% of its water from the Colorado River, which is one of 4 water supply sources for water in the city.
Now, to offset that change, the city will draw more water from Lake Texana, Lake Corpus Christi, and Choke Canyon, and we're told it will not affect water quality or even service.
City manager Peter Zanoni is saying, quote, 500,000 residents in the South Texas region depend on Corpus Christi for water, and we will keep you informed as the severe drought that continues to grip the state of Texas continues, end quote.
Other news in it.
Now that was from Peter Zanoni. So, should we not drink water? Well, it's a recommendation, but as Sammy Kershaw said, don't go near the water. I mean, after all, tap water is just good. Along with bottled water. I mean, bottled water has all these little debris floating in. Tap water is just from Lake Corpus Christi. But all that's from Colorado, so Texas and Colorado, how is that even far away? I mean, here's the map. Colorado and Texas are like neighbors of New Mexico and Oklahoma. So this is Colorado, that's New Mexico. The 2 neighbors across each other is New Mexico and Oklahoma. So the top one ever is Colorado. So they're probably taking a big bucket of the Colorado water, shipping it, carrying it with them on their backs all the way down to Corpus. and saying, this is probably the best solution ever. But again, all that's caused from the drought and the heat. So what can be done about this? I mean, the Colorado River is an approximately over 800-mile long river in the U.S. state of Texas. It's the 18th largest river in the U.S. and longest river with source within its mouth within Texas. Drainage basin in some basically dry rivers extended to New Mexico. So again, like a that's probably why it's like a up top. You got neighbors. You got, remember, you got Oklahoma, and then you got New Mexico. 2 neighbors. So that's some pretty good news. But currently, the city receives 20% of its water from the Colorado River. That's the source here. But back in April, it provides water to hundreds of communities, but according to ABC, the Colorado River is America's most endangered. Ranchers work to combat the climate change. So what gives? It's the answer. These 2 different rivers, they just share the name. For instance, the city of Corpus Christi announced they were adding water from the Colorado River cities to water blend. The city officials said this water blend will be utilized regularly moving forward, and it's used monthly for a minimum of 3 days. 3 days a month. It's a major freshwater source for over 40 million people in 7 southwestern states and parts of northern Mexico. It's lost 20% of its water levels over the past 22 years. Environmentalist forecast is going to get worse. However, the Colorado River that cities like Austin and Corpus Christi are source of water from, that runs from West Texas to the Texas Gulf Coast, although drought conditions affect this river as well, is not that bad. But let's take a look at a clip. Not that clip, it's an ad. Okay, take a look. Local ranchers stepping in to help save the Colorado River's freshwater supply before it's too late. In the past 22 years, it's lost like 20%. Ranchers have installed cobbles in the river called riffles to help the irrigation. Ranchers are also using drought-resistant flora to improve the habitat and the environmental health of the river. But experts say these measures will improve the water and soil conditions throughout the Southwest. So that's probably the answer to your question. Well, next, has your pet been abused? We're about to take you to Corpus Christi. We're going to take you to CCAC, where 30 plus animals have been rescued from the police. Leslie Anime on the arrest made in the animal cruelty case when we come back. Now for an update on the story we're following. Last time we told you about the Oxford school shooting where Ethan Crumley was charged with murder. His parents are still in jail charged with involuntary manslaughter. Now to update you, the Oxford High School hired a law firm to conduct a large independent review. Take a look.
Well, you know, that litigation could have taken up to 3 to 5 years to complete before they would bring in those firms. And, you know, the two firms that they are bringing in, one of them is out of Grand Rapids. That's a Varnum law firm. And then the second one is out of New York, and that's Guidepost Solutions. And they're an independent investigations firm. And they're going to be continuing to look into and independently review the case into the November 30th shooting. The Oxford School Board changing course last night and voting to bring in another law firm and an investigations firm for a third-party review of the November 30th shooting.
We understand that waiting for the civil and criminal trials to end first does not serve this community well.
Community members, parents, and students believe the school board is not listening to them. Jared Watts' son was one of the students who was shot on November 30th, and Watts does not agree with the board's decision to hire the independent firm.
I don't want to be here. I shouldn't have to be here. I haven't been able to talk because I'm angry. Someone tried to murder my son and a lot of innocent kids. Where were you 4 months ago? Where were you 3 months ago? You have a standing offer from the AG. You should recuse yourself. You're too close to it. You want transparency? Then be transparent.
The offer to investigate the tragic school shooting has been on the table for months. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel has offered not once but twice to independently review the tragic shooting that left 4 students dead and 6 injured. AG Nessel offered these services so the district would not have to pay the hefty fees associated with the review. But the board last week struck down that offer.
Why would they pay a company to do that when the Attorney General offered to do it for free?
Members of the Oxford community are not happy and have concerns.
How can a company that they are paying be considered independent in terms of their findings?
And other topics included in last night's discussion with the school board was a memorial for the 4 victims of that tragic November 30th shooting. Now, the board did vote to put a subcommittee in place, and that will conduct research on what a permanent memorial site will look like. And we'll be continuing to monitor that as more details do come along. Reporting in Detroit, I'm Peter Maxwell, 7 Action News.
Yeah, I'm sure students have a lot to say and want their voices heard in that decision as well. Thank you, Peter, for that live update.
And I have to agree, no one was listening. But they vent frustration over that memorial. Let's take a look at that.
Mentioned how to proceed in the investigation. It might not have been a popular choice.
You cannot honestly say that you are considering and thinking of the 1,800 students when you fail to even ask or listen.
If you really truly care about our community and you really truly care about making this right, you should poll the community.
But a decision nonetheless. The board okayed a temporary memorial honoring the 4 students killed in Oxford High. Tate Meir, Hannah St. Juliana, Madison Baldwin, and Justin Schilling, including their pictures in the Performing Arts Center in the high school.
I think it's ridiculous that it takes all of this to just have a memorial.
The board also agreed to form a committee for a permanent memorial.
Our agenda tonight is a transition to make the best steps for our community.
Another point of contention: who will investigate the shooting?
It gets exhausting fighting for something that seems like it's never going to change.
The board voted unanimously to hire Varnum Law Firm to represent them, and the company Guidepost used in the Nassar investigation at MSU and Dr. Anderson at U of M to start an independent investigation.
And why would they pay a company to do that when the Attorney General offered to do it for free?
Yeah, the board did not agree to go with the Attorney General. Instead, as you heard, they elected to go with Varnum Law Firm. One of the board members said the reason they decided to do that is so they can have a collective voice, a singular voice, someone that they can turn to in the event that any of the board members have any questions during the course of this investigation. Reporting live tonight in Oxford, Dave Spencer, Fox 2 News.
Yeah, so interesting to see all the young people who showed up at this meeting as well, and they wanted to take to the mic and be heard. How big was that crowd at tonight's meeting?
Yeah, you said it, Roop, young, and it was very large. There was over 100 people, most of them, I would say a good majority of them, students, and one by one they came up there making sure that their voices are represented in this entire investigation and as it goes forward as well.
Yeah, they've already been through so much. Being heard is the least that, of course, can be expected from that board today. Dave Spencer for us live. Thank you.
He's right. The Attorney General could do it for free, but they had to pay law firms. You know how much that costs? That costs money. And now they're doing it, and now they're denying it because we don't want to do it for free. Stay the hell out of it. They were asking the Attorney General to stay out of it, but they're having law firms, investigative firm, law firm represent them. When the Attorney General can just do it for free. I have to agree with the parents and the students. We'll keep you posted on what's going on. Give Me Back continues in just a moment. If you're an animal lover, this next story could be hard to listen to. So I'm going to have to, if you have animals or kids in the room, I'm going to have to ask students to leave the room for the next 2 minutes of this next 2 minutes of this next story. We all love our animals, but when people abuse animals, it goes too far and crosses the line. This next story is about animal cruelty. 4 people were charged with animal cruelty. 3 men and 1 woman. But now an investigation is underway. And 30 plus animal services rescue and animal service and the CCAC, which is the Corpus Christi Animal Care, rescued over 30 plus animals. 4 people were arrested for animal cruelty. But can something be done about this? Here's Leslie Adamy.
There's actually a multitude of cruelty violations that we need to address.
35 dogs and 1 cat. Nearly 40 animals found in what officials are describing as cruel confinement.
There's animals that have untreated medical conditions for an unknown amount of time.
It was just before 3 Wednesday afternoon when Corpus Christi Police and Animal Control were called to this home on Niagara Street in Corpus Christi to a report of animal cruelty.
Obviously, when they came on the property, there's a large amount of dogs that they found living in squalor conditions.
Joel Skidmore with Animal Care Services among those on scene. Situations like this, he takes personally.
We have a hard stance against animal cruelty.
And while it is never easy to witness, Skidmore says, sadly, this is not new territory.
We run into the situation where people either are trying to do the right thing and they get overboard. They don't realize how bad the conditions are or how bad the animals are being treated until PD shows up or Animal Care Services shows up.
Pets of all ages seen carried out, even newborn pups. Skidmore calling on fellow rescue groups to hopefully lend a helping hand as they are now beyond max capacity and will need to care for these pets. He's also calling on community members.
The best support we could have is if you're willing to open your home up as a foster an animal temporary for us.
And while it's too soon to know exactly what all was happening within these walls, healing can now begin.
So sad to see that.
It's very sad to see that. I mean, I have a niece and a nephew who are 2 dogs, and very sad to see. But if you're a foster parent, here in Corpus, and you like to foster these dogs who have been rescued, we'll have a link in our we'll have some. If you want to learn more about how to rescue some animals, you can visit how to adopt these rescue animals and shelter them as a foster pet, father, mother, whatever. You can visit our website at givemeabreak.substack.com. You'll also find tips on how to report animal cruelty and what the possible and what the punishment is in your state. Now on to something that I know many of you in Corpus have been talking about. Troy Aikman is promoting his new beer in Corpus today. Here's Chris Thomason.
Good evening, everybody. Many diehard Cowboys fans either took some sick days or a long lunch break today to go see Hall of Famer and TV broadcaster Troy Aikman, who was in town promoting his new beer, 8.
We're going to hand out some beer. Super Bowl 32! And I'm going to sign as best I can. I'm obviously not going
A good crowd on hand, first at Politics over on the south side, then later a huge crowd over at Brewster Street downtown with a stop at Murdy's in between. Now Aikman passing out the free 8 brand beers and signing a few autographs. And this lady, I don't know if she came over from her wedding. She's wearing a wedding gown, but talked to a couple of fans up front at Politics who got a couple of brews courtesy of the Cowboys great.
He's awesome. He's a legend, well known in Corpus. It's an honor to just be here with him.
How's the beer?
Excellent beer, Troy.
All right, you can see Aikman right here on TV3 this season as he and his broadcast partner Joe Buck have come over to Monday Night Football after spending the last 2 decades at Fox. ABC will be showing 5 Monday Night Football games this season, including the Cowboys in Week 3 at the Giants. Well, we've got a busy night of baseball and softball playoffs as well.
So I can't even wait to see Troy Aikman. Even though I don't drink, period. Because you know why? Alcohol is for people who can afford to lose a few brain cells. That's a fact. Or why doesn't Texas have the cheapest gas ever? Well, basically because of the Bobby, because of So the question is, why doesn't Texas have the cheapest gas in the country? The average cost of a gallon in Corpus Christi is $4.20. That's up for 1 year when it was $2.70. According to Daniel Armbruster with AAA Texas, the cost of fuel is not expected to decrease anytime soon. With Texas being such a large oil and gas producer, for many question remains: why have gas prices have skyrocketed instead of declined? The average cost of a gallon in Corpus Christi is $4.20. That's up for 1 year since it was $2.70. Corpus is recently ranked 17th in the 27 metro areas in the state at AAA services. Dallas is number 1 at over $4. Sorry. International conflict, federal policies, supply chain issues, and inflation. The contributing factors increased gas prices. Experts said those prices will go back down if industry leadership can step up and regain confidence. That may be in the future to come. Moving on to bullying now. As I was updating my Stop Bullying, Speak Up, there were articles about what had happened. This is what I posted on Tuesday, because this is one. This is one that really makes me sick. But I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna say, screw it.
I'm not getting off. Literally The students you see in this video are North Capel Middle School students. The 14-year-old who was assaulted tells us he was sitting in the cafeteria where he normally sits, and he was held in a chokehold while everyone just watched. His mom, Sonika Kukraja, left helpless.
It's heartbreaking. I cried. I couldn't sleep. His neck could have snapped. I wouldn't have my son.
Sonika says school officials weren't transparent.
They told us this was an altercation versus what you saw in the video.
I reached out to the school superintendent, Dr. Brad Hunt. He tells us he wasn't available for an on-camera interview, but can confirm for us that there is an investigation. Because of the student privacy law, they can only say so much, and they cannot talk about how the students will be disciplined. In a letter to parents, Hunt writes, quote, "We adhere to the state's anti-bullying laws in our investigation, as well as work with our school resource officers and local police departments when necessary. This process deserves the necessary time it takes to be thorough and accurate for all parties involved." Attorney Marwa El Bailey says the student assaulting the 14-year-old only got 1 day of punishment.
He could have potentially paralyzed or, God forbid, have killed him, and no real action is taken against that kid.
Sonika is demanding school officials do more so children are safe in school.
We trusted you with our kids, and you've not. You've not done your job. You failed us.
In Capel, I'm Malini Basu.
Now, the other student in the video, their family released this statement tonight saying, "We have and will fully cooperate with any investigation by the authorities into this matter. We welcome a chance for the truth to come out, that the young man who was pulled away from the table made threats. We look forward to cooperating with any authority that wishes to investigate the matter."
See, if I had hair right now, I'd be ripping out of my head. This person almost snapped the victim's neck. And the school suspended this person for 1 day. Instead of doing enough, he should have been put in juvenile hall. Instead, the school was like, "No, just give me 1 day out, 1 day suspension." It doesn't matter. School should have done enough, and the attorneys are, and the mom's attorney is working her best. We'll keep you posted as things go along with this one. And if you want to join the Stop Bullying Speak Up group, we'll have that in the description below. And I can say we're almost at 25. We're almost at 25 new members. So let's get to that. That's all for this edition of Give Me a Break Wednesday going to Thursday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Friday. And for all of us here at Give Me a Break and YouTube, good night.